This time on the Families Matter Most podcast.
The most important thing is to recognize what's going on. I promise you this. I promise you that even if you fail, even if the next time something is going wrong and you find yourself moving into that harsh rock territory, or you're shutting down, you're stuffing it, you're in the marshmallow mode, even if you fail, but later you look back and you say, oh, I see what happened. I was over here. I was harsh. I was firm. I see what I did. Even just recognizing that will help you in the future.
Every time Jen Dean speaks, I can see hope, knowledge, expertise, wisdom, and love.
When Jen Dean speaks about parenting, we make sure that we are there to listen because we know we will get valuable advice.
Families Matter Most with Jen Dean.
She doesn't just give skills for us to be better parents, but she teaches us how to reach our children's hearts. And at the end of the day, that's what truly matters.
Today, we're going to go beyond parenting style and see how that applies to other areas of our life. If I were to hold up a rock to you and ask you to describe it, you would use words like hard, sharp, harsh, painful, firm, unmoving, unyielding, right? If I threw a rock at you, it would hurt. Now, as a parenting style, that translates to the drill sergeant, those strict parents that most of us grew up with, actually. It was called authoritarian parenting, and it was very popular, 20 years ago for sure. We were raised in this. It was you obey, you listen, when I say jump, you don't question it. You just blindly, obey, and you don't question anything. You never ask. You just follow instructions. That was kind of the parenting style that most of us were raised in. They've been studying this since the 60s, and the outcomes for kids that are raised in that is we can have a good life on paper. We have learned how to do the things we don't want to do. We've learned how to get the jobs, make the money, get the mortgage, right? We can do those things. But on a happiness score, there's a lot of insecurity. Happiness scores are really low when you are raised in this kind of environment. Also, perfectionism is high. So maybe you're listening and you're thinking, yeah, I was raised in that type of lifestyle. Like, I couldn't question my parents. My dad was like, you do what I say when I say so. And I always felt like it was never good enough. It was never good enough for my parents. It was always more. They wanted me to do better and more. If that was you, then you can relate to this. Yeah, you can be successful in life. Maybe you're rocking your career. You've got all these things. You've got a good family, and yet you're not happy, and yet you're still wanting more, and it will never be enough, and that perfectionism is at play. That is that parenting style. Now, for many of us, because it's how we were raised, by default, maybe that's our personality now. Maybe we also have that going on in our life. For your kids, would they say you are that strict parent? Maybe not as strict as you were raised, but still, would they say you are that rock? You're immovable, you're harsh, you expect things done your way and not to be questioned. You want your kids to obey, you want respect. Is that you? Is that your parenting style? Then you would be that rock now. And that's a hard pill to swallow when maybe you look at your own childhood and recognize that it was kind of harsh. You might say, well, it wasn't as bad as it was for me. But let's remember, your kids don't know that. They're not comparing. They're not saying, well, at least. They're not doing that. They're just either feeling comfortable, welcome in their own home, or not. They might say that you are that drill sergeant, you are that rock. If that's your personality style today, if that's how you parent, likely it shows up in other areas of your life too. So at work, under stress, you might become super cold, bossy, task focused. If you have employees, it's not going to be, let's talk about it. It's going to be, you do what I say when I say it. You don't question me. Notice it's the same things, but now in a work environment. We got to get this done. Just do it. Just do it. I don't care if you're tired. I don't care what's going on. Just get it done. We need this project, whatever that is. If someone's upset, you don't want to talk about feelings. No, come on. Get to it. This has to be done. This is your job. You can hear it even in my voice. Maybe you say these things out loud. Maybe you think them. But if this is naturally where you lean when you're stressed, this will show up, not just at home, not just raising your kids. It will show up in your marriage. Just do it. What's wrong with you? Just get it done. Just do it anyway. It will show up at work. It will make you task focused and bossy. It will make you cold. It will isolate you. You will push people away, maybe for yourself. Maybe you don't have employees, but I'm just going to put my head down. I'm just going to get to work. But without even realizing it, you are isolating. You're pushing people away. You're task focused. You are hurting relationships at work. You could hurt people by saying things or just by being cold. You could come across and be hurting people. In your marriage, you could be hurting your marriage without even realizing what's going on. Because in the moment when this is your personality leaning towards that rock, that harsh, sharp rock, then how would that go when you're doing life with a partner, right? In marriage, this comes across as, what's wrong with you? My way's the only way. My way's the best way. Just do what I tell you to do and it would all be fine. Now, of course, that's not a partnership. So not just parenting, this shows up in our life under stress. Now, another one, what if I were to show you a marshmallow? Describe the marshmallow. It's soft, it's squishy, it's sweet, it's fun, it's delicious. All these things. Now, in parenting, this represents a parenting style called permissive parenting. And these are parents that avoid conflict. The idea is that I don't really want to bring things up. I just want us to be happy. At the end of the day, I want us to be happy. So let's just let things go. I'm just going to ignore that. I'm going to pretend I didn't see that thing over there because I don't want to deal with it. It could also look like, hey, you know what? I'm just shutting down. Just do what you want. You don't listen to me anyway. So you might as well just have all the screen time because it's such a big deal. If that's so important to you, then fine. Like, it can become emotional too, don't get me wrong. But the idea is that we would roll over, we would avoid conflict, we would give in, or we would shut down. That's been studied since the 60s too. Outcomes are not great. Interestingly, happiness might be a little higher than in the rock scenario, but it comes at a huge cost. Life success in general is quite low. Kids that are raised in this permissive parenting environment, their outcomes aren't good because I believe they haven't learned to be responsible. They haven't learned how to finish tasks because growing up, they didn't have to do anything they didn't want to do. If it got too hard, they quit because they've not learned how to see things through to the end and do it even when it was hard. They cannot do hard things. And that's going to hurt them their whole life. So this is not helping our kids. But even for us, if you would say, under stress, I lean towards that marshmallow. I just want to be fun. I just want to be soft and squishy. I don't want to have the hard conversation. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I want to avoid conflict. If that's you, how does that show up in your marriage? Of course it does. It shows up with you not having a hard conversation, not bringing something up that is obviously hurting your marriage. Maybe it's a hurt that you have. Maybe it's something that you see is an issue. Maybe it's something, right, destructive, a habit, anything, a conversation that you need to have with your partner, with your spouse, that you will not bring up because there's fear or something in you just wants it to be happy. Just let it go. Just ignore it. Everything's fine. What about at work, though? This hurts you at work. this hurts you, this unwillingness to have what could be a difficult, a hard conversation actually has been studied. You will probably make less money. You will not be up for the promotions because people won't feel like you are capable of making hard decisions, having hard conversations. So you will lose out on promotions, on titles, on money. That makes a difference. But also, you can become too emotional. You can become a people pleaser, just say what everyone wants to hear in the moment. You might shut down. You could also isolate, but for a different reason. Instead of just being task focused, putting your head down, you could isolate in the, I'm just gonna be whoever they want me to be. And I'm not gonna cause a problem. Don't rock the boat. That could be you at work, unwilling to have what could become a conflict because you just want everyone to be happy all the time. You might decide your own feelings don't matter. Just stuff them down. Just ignore them because that always goes well, doesn't it? Just stuff those suckers down deep. Bury them. Yeah, that always goes well in life. And then there's a big blow up at the office and we wonder what's gone on. Well, probably there's a combination. There's a couple of rocks in the office and there's also a couple of marshmallows in the office. And then we have an explosion. That can happen. Deep hurts can develop. You can be taken advantage of if you are the marshmallow. If you're the rock, you can take advantage of other people. And we want better than that, right? We want to have a better life. We want to be good to the people around us. So I want you to consider the rock and the marshmallow and ask yourself honestly, what happens when you're under stress? Do you lean more to one or the other? And we all do. For me, I lean towards the rock. And if I'm not careful, I can hurt people. I can become super task focused. I can take advantage of people. I have that in me. I need to be careful of that because I want better than that. I care. I want to be a good person to others. I want to do well by others. I want to bring out the best in people. That matters to me. So I need to check myself and make sure that I'm not too far in that rock world. And then on the flip side, if you're the marshmallow, your feelings matter too. And for you to live your best life, to live your best authentic life and bring out the best in other people around you, that means you're going to have some hard conversations sometimes, maybe bringing stuff up for your own self, or maybe bringing up things that you see in other people that are hurting them, thinking about your kids, your partner, even some coworkers that you have relationship with. If you have employees or people that are working under you, then you need to be willing to develop those people. If you care about them, you want to bring out the best in them, that means that you're got to be willing to have a hard conversation. So this all matters. What I want to suggest is a middle, a balance. I call this the tennis ball, right? If you were going to describe a tennis ball, it's soft, but not too soft. It's a little bit soft. It's a little bit squishy, but yet it's firm, right? It's this perfect middle ground. You know, if I threw it at you, it probably wouldn't hurt you unless I threw it really hard, but you know, it could be fun under the right circumstances. A tennis ball can be fun. But it also, you need to consider, right? And make sure it's under the right, you don't want to throw a tennis ball at someone in the middle of the office or the middle of your kitchen. You got to think about it ahead of time. So the tennis ball is that middle ground. Yes, it can be fun sometimes. It can also be firm sometimes. You have to think about it. It's not super soft and squishy like a marshmallow, but it's not harsh, sharp, painful like a rock. So I want you to consider, instead of moving into that rock when you're under stress, what would it look like for you to take a step towards that center, right? If we think of the marshmallow and the rock as two extremes and the tennis ball as a center in the middle, as this balance point, when you find yourself moving into one or the other, the rock or the marshmallow, what can you do? What can you do to take a step towards that center, that tennis ball? So if you're moving into the rock, if you're moving into that harsh, firm task focus, just get it done. Don't question me. My idea is the right one, right? I know everything about everything. My way is the best way. You start moving into that at work, at home. You can stop, take a breath. You could say, hey, team, you know what? I'm feeling like I'm getting heated about this, or this is getting stressful, or you know what? We just need to take a quick break. How about 15 minutes? We meet back. Let's talk about this again. I just need a couple of minutes. You could absolutely do that. You could step out for a couple of minutes, take a walk around the building, go get a drink of water. Tell yourself, I'm getting too harsh over here, right? I don't know everything about everything. I could be wrong, and I need to be open and willing to hear people out. Go back. Say to yourself, tennis ball. Okay, I'm going to take a step towards the center. You could ask questions. Tell me why you might want to do it this way. Tell me what you're thinking. This is what I'm thinking. To me, this is a no-brainer. What do you think? Maybe there's something I'm missing here. Yeah, that's a step towards the center. Now, what if you're on the flip side? What if you are that marshmallow? The idea of speaking up is terrifying. You hate everything about it. You want to avoid conflict. Just stuff your feelings down. Just keep going. Just everyone be happy. If that's you, then maybe you need a minute. Maybe you need to say, hey, you know what? I just need a couple of minutes. I just need to run and grab a glass of water, whatever it is, and take a breath and ask yourself, okay, how can I take a step towards that center, that tennis ball, that middle balancing point? What can I do? All right, I have to have a hard conversation. What could that look like for you? Maybe you go back and you say, hey, you could even say, this is hard for me, but I feel like we need to have a hard conversation. Like, this is a challenge, but I want the best for you. And I think we can work through this. I really want to hear what you think. You could go back and say, hey, you know what? As much as I'd love to just ignore this and move on, I feel like we do need to talk about it. I think it would be really good for our team if we just spent a couple of minutes debriefing on this, or, you know, let's book a one-on-one. I want to hear about this some more. Maybe there's something that I need to apologize for. Like, and notice doing that, it's a way to let the defenses down. And at the same time, you are then giving yourself an opportunity to also ask for an apology from another person. But you're going to go first. Hey, I'm willing to admit that I don't do everything right all the time. And I want to hear more about that. And then at that time, you can say, hey, you know what? I own that. I take responsibility for myself. This is on me. But can I also share this? You know what? Like, I apologize. I own mine. I think what also happened was blah, 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 blah. And hopefully they would apologize for their part. This is not a 3-step process. We're going to get this wrong, all of us. But I think the most important thing is to recognize what's going on. I promise you this. I promise you that even if you fail, even if the next time something is going wrong and you find yourself moving into that harsh rock territory, or you're shutting down, you're stuffing it, you're in the marshmallow mode, even if you fail, but later you look back and you say, oh, I see what happened. I was over here. I was harsh. I was firm. I was not open to feedback or criticism. Or, oh, I see what happened. I was just shutting down. I was avoiding. I was distracting, right? I didn't want to have conflict. It was too hard for me. I see what I did. Even just recognizing that will help you in the future. Maybe we're going to fail our way forward. We're going to get it wrong before we get it right. We can go back to a person, to our partner, to our kid, to our team. We could go back and say, hey guys, you know what? I recognize this is what happened. They may not know the terminology, rocks. I was a rock or I was a marshmallow. They may not understand that, but you could go back and say, hey, I recognize that I was really harsh there, and that's not who I want to be. I'm really sorry. Can we try this again? Please forgive me. You could go back and do that. And that is still better than it was before this podcast. You could go back and say, hey, team, kids, husband, wife, I recognize that these conversations are really hard for me and I kind of shut down and then I don't talk, but I'm working on that. I'd like to try again. You know, that still makes a difference. So I want you to think about this as a parenting style, but let's broaden it out to a personality style, a lifestyle of how we live with other people. What can you do? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments, send me an email, find me on social media. Let me know where you are. Do you lean towards that marshmallow? Do you lean towards the rock? And I would love to know, what does it look like for you to take a step towards that middle ground, that balance point, the tennis ball? You know, you're kind of firm, but you're also, there's room. There's a bit of give. You can hear other people out and you're willing to admit that maybe your way isn't always the best way. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. I can't wait to hear from you. Let me know how this makes a difference in your life.
Thanks for listening to the Families Matter Most podcast with Jen Dean. Book a free strategy call today. For more podcasts, online courses, or just to get more information, visit familiesmattermost.com.